Now listen up, you grots. That saw is the vape. Yous get over there and make it more pointy. If you think we's gonna stomp some pointy ears with a blood chopper, yous more stupid than a squid riding snotty. I want more jacker and more pointy bits than one of those spiky beakies who's fallen in a thorn bush. You hear me?
Now he's a bit passive aggressive, but he wasn't wrong. That saw was looking a bit bleak. But today I thought I'd focus on decking. So what you're going to need are these three things. You're going to need some coffee stirrers, some clippers, and some sandpaper. Now we're going to end up eventually placing it all on the side of the huge melee weapon here, which is the big saw. So first off, we're going to clip them out. Now, I go into a little detail about how to be safe, but what I will always say is use one or two as a template. You don't really want the variation of size to be so great that nothing really slots into each other. So bear that in mind when you are clipping them out. So using the one or two you put aside, you can start clipping out. And actually, I'm going to show you why it is you really want to pinch. See, right there, bang, gone. It's disappeared, probably in your cornea or something. I actually did almost blind myself when doing this a couple of years ago. So safety is key, so bear that in mind. So what you want to do is basically pinch with the clippers and then sort of tear, if that makes any sense. But you sometimes get these ends which aren't always fantastically straight. So what you're going to do is you're going to sand off the edges, and that also gives it a sort of weathered look as well. We want to give the effect that these planks have been on this Giga-Gargant for years, or they've been literally recycled for probably some poor human habitation sort of thing. Next up is scoring. So what you're going to need to do is grab a nice sharp implement, hopefully one that has got a good handle as well, because I'll be honest, I'm looking at my fingers and thumbs at the moment, and they've all got blisters and stuff on because I didn't use the handles properly. But you want to then score going across, following the grain of the wood, so it gives it that sort of, what gives it a grain really. It's obviously a little bit cartoony, the sort of grain of any wood will never be that distinctive. You can also use the tips of any files so long as it comes to a point, but all my tools are super cheap, so you can pick these up in any real cheap hardware store. Poundland, Poundworld doesn't exist anymore, sad times. But anyway, so what you then want to do is using a nice file, make two indentations either end of the plank. Sometimes you might, if it's a long plank of wood, you would need to put two in the middle as well, and that gives it a sort of nailed look as well. So it's really sort of brings it all together, and what you're left with is a nice little plank. So that will be added to the decking for the Giga-Gargant melee weapon, and I think that already looks pretty darn good. So here we are. I'm just going to speed run through all these. As you can see, I actually wanted to put a timer next to it. Next time I will. It's a really quick process, and if you've got 20 minutes, you can do this. So it's not laborious, and I always find it quite soothing because it's working with a material that you don't tend to work with within our hobby, which is actually wood. So I don't really know what came over me, but after completing all of these, I thought, you know what, something's missing from this. So what I thought I would do is just do a bit of a test. It's always a good thing to test out brand new ideas on the biggest project you've done so far. But what I thought would be cool was to add some notches to the wood. So grabbing a brand new scalpel, I thought it would be cool to take a few swipes, a few gouges out of this plank, and just to see how it came off, and it looked rather good. I think it's quite obvious it looks a little bit more cartoony. Definitely was inspired by Sea of Thieves, but I think the overall project came out really well, and as you can see that after a while it really does bring some character to the piece, so I was quite happy with that. It does need to be said, if you are using a scalpel, please be very careful with it, because it's the most common injury hobbyists sustain, so do be aware of that. So at this point, I thought it'd also be a good idea to show you alternatives to using a file, because again, files aren't always the easiest things to come across. So I grabbed the sharp pointed instrument. I don't really know what it's used for. I think it's some level of woodworking and stuff. But that could really be taking the place of anything. So long as it's sharp and strong, you can make those indentations with anything. So what I wanted to really hit home today is that if you think it's cool, slap it on your Ork vehicle, because no one's going to judge you for it, because Ork vehicles are all about ramshackledness, and I love to work with wood, so I'm going to use a little bit of that on my Giga-Gargant. So in the end, we're left with a nice pile of lumber, and what I'm hoping to do is slap that nice and easy onto the side of the saw and make a bit of a scaffolding. So here are the wooden dowels that I've placed into the side of the saw. I thought it would be a nice way to anchor them in. I was a little bit worried that they might be a bit too fragile, but like they say, a bundle of sticks is stronger than the individual, and they did turn out quite well actually. So quite strong, quite robust. What I also wanted to show you here is that PVA glue, or strong wood glue, is possible to use, but I would always say, just for your own ease of use super glue, obviously in a well ventilated room, and it just slots in quite nicely. But you will see just how fiddly it is, so you will have to forgive me. I did complete the majority of this off camera, just because I reviewed the footage and all you could see was my hands in front of the camera the entire time. And so I finished up with this, and I was really happy. I'm going to put some railings on the side of the top deck at the very least, and what I loved was the ramshackle nature of it. I was a little bit chastising myself because I said, oh, it's not pretty, but it's an Ork vehicle. It's not meant to be. So I was happy with that. Well, that was episode 7 of the Giga-Gargant project. I really do hope you enjoyed, and do let me know if there's anything you would love to see on the Gargant project going forward. Thanks ever so much. Hope you have a great day. Cheers, guys.